microphone.
Thank you.
Forgot my pen this morning.
Oh, yeah, totally. Jane, are you ready? Deb, are we ready in the back? Okay. That moment of quiet.
A Wednesday meditation.
Yeah. Okay. It's 9 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meetings are also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website or to tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room for public comment, or has anyone registered online? No. Thank you. All right, then we will call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone in the room. Thank you for being here in person. We're happy to have people in the room with us. And I invite you to sign the guest list at the back of the room. And we'll start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Olson, will you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we don't have any non-agenda items today, but we're going to start off our meeting with a presentation. So I'll invite Neil Lemry and Dan Overholzer to come to the front of the room if you'd like to.
Put Dan on the spot here.
Terrific. And our presentation this morning is on the Tillamook County Parks Foundation. Neil is a member of the Parks Foundation, the president of the Parks Foundation, and Dan Overholzer is a member also of the Parks Foundation board and on our Parks Advisory Committee. Do you want to move that chair for Dan?
Hold on a second. Or you want to sit here?
Yeah, I'll sit in it.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Pulling the chair out from under me.
Neil.
That's my job here.
Welcome, gentlemen. So glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. Well, I'm Neil Lemery, and back in 2017, Del Schweikert, who was the director of the county park system, and I decided that we needed to have a nonprofit foundation to support the county park system. And Del had worked in Vancouver and had worked with the Clark County Parks Department and then also the Clark County Parks Foundation. And they had a very active foundation that has an endowment of several $1 million. And they had been busy buying parkland, making park improvements, and it was very successful, and it was a huge component of the county park system there. So when Dell came here and was the director of our county park system, he realized that, well, we should have a foundation too. And as you well know, the county park system is not funded by the general fund, and it's totally, or almost totally supported by camping fees and boat ramp fees. So there's no extra money to make some capital improvements, put in signage, have programs. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could happen, but doesn't happen because we don't have a big fat funding source. So we created a nonprofit foundation, and we are in compliance with the IRS. We're a 501c3 corporation. We've registered with the state. We've filed all our reports. And we've received some donations, not very much. And we have bought 3 different park benches to put up in the park system. And they haven't been put up yet, but they have been built and they are sitting in Barview waiting for a day when they can get put in. A park bench costs about $2,600. And we've had a couple of families that have donated the funds for that. And people like to use it as a memorial bench for their family. So we've been buying park benches. One fisherman wanted to donate some gravel for a boat ramp, so we processed that and took care of that. But we haven't done a whole bunch. And we're trying to get the word out. We published a brochure a couple years ago that you have. We need to update that. And this year, thank you, Commissioner Bell, we've mailed those brochures out to people who are buying annual park passes. So we're trying to get the word out. We've updated our website last month, and there's places on the website that people can make donations. And we've received a few of those donations. We need to have more board members. We need to have some identifiable projects that people get excited about. I'm excited because I think it has huge potential. People love our park system, and we have an amazing number of people that use it. The County Parks Department is the largest short-term rental company in the county. We have more rooms available than any other entity in the county. And so how do we promote that? And how do we make that experience for people a better experience? And I think that's what the foundation's all about. So, do you have any questions? We have a couple of thousand in the bank. We're always willing to take more, but we also want to take on some special projects too. And I think if we find a good project, applying for a grant from Tillamook Coast Visitors Association is totally a possibility. And I've talked to the estuary project, and they have people that can design and suggest plans for different signs too. And so I think we could put some informational signs out and make it an attractive place for people to come to. You know, and I think Barview's the shining star, but we have some other fabulous park properties. We have, I think, close to 20 different boat ramps. I mean, you know how fabulous our park system is and what it could be. So, and Mary Faith is on our board because she's the acting director of the Parks Department, which makes her a board member. So we're glad that you're around. So.
Thank you, Neil. Dan, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, just a couple things I'd share. That park foundations are very, very common. I think a lot of people think they've not heard of a park foundation, but every single national park has their own park foundation. Almost all state park systems have a park foundation. Oregon being one of the strongest in the country, in fact, we're working with them. They process our money for us, and we've developed a really nice working relationship with Oregon State Parks Foundation. But also city, county, and park districts commonly have park foundations. And what we find is, like at Barview, you have generations of people that have camped and recreated, and there are memories. And that's our job with parks, is to make memories. And so these people that go back generations, we're gonna try and tap into that. And you know, hopefully there's some generosity there that we can find. That's all I have.
Thank you.
So the Oregon State Parks Foundation, which is now State Parks Forever, they have $5 to $10 million in endowments, and they have been raising huge amounts of money to support state parks around the state. So they're a great partner. I think there's just tons of possibilities around here. One thing I'm kind of excited about is down at Whalen Island, there's the county park, and then there's the state area, the Whalen Island facility. And they're next to each other, but the state parks they don't really want to be an owner down there. They want to transition and work something out with the county park system so that the whole island can be managed by the county park system. And I mean, it's a 1.5 mile trail on the state land, and it's just fabulous down there. So I think that's a big opportunity for us. And one of my dreams is to buy some small, tiny houses and put them in there as cabins for people to rent. Because there's a little campground there that the county owns, but you could have some cabins down there, and I think that would be a gold mine. I think people would snap that up in a heartbeat because it's just a beautiful recreation area. So I just think there's tons of possibilities, and once we see the possibilities, I think we'll make some money, but I think more importantly, we'll give the public a much more diverse recreational opportunity too.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. As you said, I'm the interim director of parks, and I've been the liaison to Tillamook County Parks for 5 years. And as the interim director for the last 4 months or so, I am just on fire for our parks. I love our parks so much, and they're really just the gems of our county. Whalen Island is absolutely stunning. For people who are watching this, you know, I think we live in such a beautiful place that we kind of take it for granted. And if you haven't been to Whalen Island lately, people should go to Whalen Island and walk that trail that Neil just talked about, because it's beautiful. And the Trask County Campground, Kilchis, Barview, they are beautiful. Webb, maybe a little less beautiful, but it's right across the street from Cape Kiwanda. And to Dan's point earlier, people have been going there for generations. The fishermen in particular, but not exclusively. You know, there are people coming there with children now who said, I used to come here when I was a child, my grandparents used to bring me here. Multiple generations of people who go to Webb and love it. They go every year. And I have personally now reserved several family reunion reservations for people who come back to our parks every single summer. So really, they are amazing and so, so beautiful. And I'm a camper. I've camped lots of places, and there really aren't places more beautiful than our parks. So I encourage people to get out and check them out and to think about, I think your ask today, Neil, is for people on the board, for people who want to participate in the Parks Foundation board, for people who want to donate to the Parks Foundation Board and suggestions for projects. And so I invite people who are watching or listening, if you're interested in Tillamook County Parks, to reach out to, tell us how to reach you if they're interested in any of those things.
I brought a slide too. But there is, we have a website and we have an email address too. So Tillamook County Parks Foundation.org.
Fabulous, thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. And just listening to you talk today, I've thought of, oh, this project or that project, and things that the public might get excited about and want to participate in. Like the other day, I was out at Kilchis, which is beautiful, and there's a gorgeous little trail along the river, and that trail could be expanded with more funding. And also, there's an opportunity to build an accessible day use area right beside the river. Because we had a consultant come fairly recently who was talking to us about access issues. It was invaluable. And she said, just think about this. It's not that what's required by ADA should be your bare minimum. It's not enough. We meaning people with access issues, want to be everywhere you want to be. So wherever the most beautiful places are that everyone wants to go, that's where we want to go. So it really opened up my eyes about what are the most beautiful spots and how can we make them accessible. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here for the Parks Foundation to fund some of those and to be the drivers for some of those. So I hope that folks will reach out to Neil and Dan, the Parks Foundation, or just reach out to me and I will connect you and we can get some more projects going. But I'd like to invite my fellow commissioners to ask questions, make comments. Sure. Would you like to start?
Sure. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate that. And my brain is clicking on a number of things. So one of the things two of the things that I'm involved in that are a very similar stage, if you will, is the Salmonberry Trail Foundation and the State Forest Trust of Oregon, because those are both foundations standing alongside amazing natural environment, recreational facilities. And they're working on building their infrastructure, very much like what you're talking about now, getting board members, figuring out what the plan will look like, all of that. So it would be interesting, if you have not yet, to reach out to Caroline Fitchett, who is the executive director for the Salmonberry Trail Foundation, and Kelly Lau, who is the executive director for State Forest Trust of Oregon, if only to talk about the process of how they got from, we have a few board members and a few dollars, and we really want to do some amazing things, to here we are today, and Caroline in particular at Salmonberry Trail, to where they are today. Now they raised over $100,000 last year. Salmonberry Trail is actually under construction in some areas of Banks right now. We just submitted the RAISE grant through the county to try to construct a section in Rockaway Beach. They've already received one grant for that. So she's been able to take that foundation from where you sound like you sit today to some pretty high power work going on that I can hear completely in your vision is where you want to be.
Right.
So that might be a useful couple of conversations. The State Forest Trust is, I would say, maybe halfway to where the Salmonberry is, but we're doing the same work. How do we build this? And what really captured me and what you both talked about is the memories that people make at our state parks. My own son used to come here with his grandparents for years, and he remembers Barview Jetty Park. He remembers the dune that's kind of in the back and rolling down that as a kid. And it was an every summer adventure. So there are memories there, both for the grandparents and for my son himself. So I think that you're onto something. It's an amazing opportunity, and our challenge then is the mechanics and logistics to go from where you are today with a powerful vision and an amazing set of natural resource areas at your fingertips with the parks and the boat ramps and everything that the county has. And how do we logistically kick that off so that the power of it starts to generate the resources to meet the vision? So thank you guys for being here. I love the vision. And I'd be happy to sit down with you if you want to and talk about just what steps we started with in both of those foundations that you might be able to start with now. But also both of those executive directors. might be helpful, because they're similar to the Oregon Parks Forever. They're just a little bit behind, a little bit smaller, and working to get to that space.
I think we're all working together.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I hope so, because there's just a lot happening around our natural beauty and our recreational opportunities across Tillamook County and up and down the coast.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner?
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, I'm Mr. Overholser and Judge, good to see you again. Some years ago, I worked for Washington County, our neighboring county, and among my duties was managing the park system there. It's a bit smaller than here, even though it's a much larger county population-wise, because there's a separate entity known as the Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District. You're probably familiar with that. They had ball fields and tennis courts and all kinds of things, and still do. But I remember Hague Lake was a fairly large overnight camping facility, and spent many, many hours up there with staff. So they have, parks have a special meaning to me as well. So my first question to you, do either of you know Phil Knight very well?
Well, no, I wish I did, but yeah.
Yes. Well, there are certainly people out there who will support these sorts of things, and I would encourage you to don't be bashful and ask, and we can refer people over as well. My experience with parks is everything that you have heard, and they also have, I guess, what I would call an equalizer effect. When you pull into a park, everybody looks about the same. You don't have on your Sunday clothes. You're there for a good time, and you set up your camp and you visit with the person next to you, or you wander around a bit. And it's one of those things. It's like going to a football or a baseball game or some other event. Everybody, you leave your issues at the gate, and you go in there and have a good time and build memories, as you heard. And so, for my part of this, I'm a large supporter, and I will refer some people over if I find anybody who has a few extra dollars or an interest. And I think you're off to a good start, and I'd say build some inertia, keep going.
All right,
It's good for you.
all right, thank you, thank you. All right,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item 6, which is consideration of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Justice for the 2023 to 2025 Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Grant Program. Good morning, Under Sheriff Kelly and Maria Bateman, Coordinator of Tillamook Family from Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm going to be quiet because you've heard me talk about it a lot, and I've been looking forward to you guys meeting Maria. She is our coordinator for our CAC, the Child Abuse Advocacy Center, so I'll let her take it because you've heard from me enough.
Thank
Thanks, Matt. Hi. You may have seen me here before asking for permission to apply for the CAC and CAMI grants. We did have permission, thank you, and we applied, and now we're here to ask that you sign the acceptance for the award. We've got a $172,000 CAMI and MDT award for the next 2 years, which will support our multidisciplinary team for child abuse investigations and response. And our CAC grant is roughly $157,000, which includes a carryover from last grant period. And that supports our Child Assessment Center building up the program and having a safe place for children who are victims of abuse to come and tell their story.
Terrific. Congratulations on receipt of the grant, and thank you for your very important work.
Thank you.
I want to just say, to expand on a little bit, and you guys are very versed in this. You know, I've talked about it a lot, and you with the support of the commissioners, but the CAC and the Child Abuse Center has taken a long time to get where we're at, and it's mainly because of Maria. Her dedication and her work to that, we're far more advanced than we were 10 years ago. And I just want to acknowledge that in this setting, because she's really important to what we've done, and we have big dreams and big goals from here on out. We're not near done, but we've gone a long way just in the last year or two, so thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Maria. Commissioners?
Yeah, thank you both very much. And you're right, we have talked about this at length, and we've talked about the importance of the work that you do. And Maria, we continue to hear people sing your praises for the work that that you're doing. It takes a champion in the community who says, this is so important to my community that we can't not have it here, to have a community our size be able to grow and maintain our own advocacy center. And everyone tells me that's because of your commitment. So thank you for being that champion, because I know that it takes that. And we want our children who are in that horrible situation not to have to leave their community, not to have to go somewhere where they know no one, and it's already a terrifying situation, but to make it worse. So by having that available in our community, that is just so, so powerful. So thank you for doing the grant applications. Congratulations on the receipt of them, and I'm super excited to sign it and have this work be continuing in our community. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Well, I too support what you're asking and informing us of this morning. And for me, this is one of those items that you can't really measure the success because it's not a or B or C or a D or whatever. It doesn't achieve a grade or whatever. It's simply you do the right thing and eventually it works the right way, we hope. And so it's more subjective, but it's one of those things that makes a community a place you want to live. So I'm good with what you're doing, and thank you.
All right, thanks so much. I think we're ready for motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Justice for the 2023-2025 Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Grant Program, I would move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you both.
Thank you, Commissioner.
There were two. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna do the other one, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't realize we did.
Sorry, my mistake. So I think this isn't a new topic, so we'll just move right into the
Take a
motion.
Okay, perfect. Madam Chair, in consideration of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Justice for the 2023-2025 Child Advocacy Fund State Grant Program, I would move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8 is consideration of an administrative service agreement with Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Inc. for fulfillment of the Criminal Justice Commission Specialty Court Grant for Tillamook County Behavioral Health Court. And with us this morning, we have Frank Hanna-Williams, Executive Director of Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and all. This particular agreement is kind of, as it states, it's for the fulfillment of the specialty court grant for Tillamook County Behavioral Health Court, and comes under the category of specialty courts. Specialty courts operate under a model that provides an alternative to incarceration through court-directed supervision and mandated treatment for individuals with substance use and mental health issues underlying their involvement with the criminal legal system. The goal of the Specialty Court Grant Program is to increase a person's rehabilitation through early, continuous, judicially supervised treatment, mandatory random drug testing, and community supervision. That is the purpose of the project, and this agreement allows for an amount of dollars to come to Tillamook County, and then, of course, and also an amount of dollars then from Tillamook County to come to Tillamook Family Counseling Center to provide the support with the program and work very closely with Tillamook County Court. And that is the crux of the agreement. think that at this particular time, if you have, if there are any questions, I can answer them. But basically, we're talking about the fulfillment of the Criminal Justice Commission Specialty Court arrangement.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Commissioner Olson?
Thank you. I really don't have any questions. As I understand it, this is something that can help people stay out of the formal court system and incarceration, and to the extent that that's the way forward. And again, I claim no expertise at all in this particular specialties. I know you do, and so I respect what you do. And if this is the right thing to do for these individuals, then you certainly have my support. So keep doing what you're doing, and if you can keep people out of the jail, no offense to our sheriff in the back, I'm sure he would prefer fewer people in the jail. So keep at it, and thank you very much, and I will support this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. This is such amazing work. I have the opportunity to sit on the Behavioral Health Court Steering Committee, so each month get to hear about how the process is going and hear about the successes that we're having. And, you know, it really is an amazing opportunity for folks who find themselves involved in criminality not related, that is based on other factors around substance use disorder and mental health issues, and really providing them with the services they need so that they can move past that, and so the criminality doesn't become their way of life long term, but rather they receive the support they need to address the issues and move on to be contributing members of our community. And it's powerful. So I really appreciate the work. I appreciate Tillamook Family Counseling's commitment to this. I know that it's challenging, that, you know, keeping enough staff to make sure that you're able to appropriately support this and all of the other work that you are doing in the community is a never-ending challenge. So I appreciate the priority that you place on this to keep staff here. I am happy that the Criminal Justice Commission grant is here to help support that. But just my heartfelt thanks for this work and for being a part of this process. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Judge Hill, who has brought this program into full focus and does a great job with it as well. So thank you for the partnership.
Well, I appreciate the partnership and appreciate Judge Hill's perspective, and that's very important. And yes, the partnership makes this work. So I appreciate it. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you. As the liaison to Circuit Court, I also, as I'm listening this morning, I'm thinking about comments that I've heard from both Judge Hill and from Judge Trevino about how very meaningful this work is to them and how much they believe in it, and how it has, it provides opportunity for people in our community who aren't well served by just going to jail. And that they see people's lives changing, and they get to participate and sit across the table from people and participate in their treatment programs, and you know, really have a different kind of impact than they typically have. And in every case, they sing the praises of the partnership with Tillamook Family Counseling Center and talk about how invaluable your role is in that. So I'm really proud that this is happening. It's fairly recent in Tillamook County, and it sounds like it's very successful. So thank you.
I think thank you for your comments, and I think the important part of that it does not take away issues related to accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes when people hear these sorts of partnerships or these sorts of perspectives on support and care, it's you get what comes next is you're getting away with something, and I believe that the partnership with the court specifically makes sure that accountability is upfront.
Yeah.
So I just want to comment on about that, and again, we are thankful for the partnership, and if there's some folks that can get, if some situations that can get better and improve, we're all for that. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of an administrative service agreement with Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Inc. for the fulfillment of the Criminal Justice Commission Specialty Court Grant for Tillamook County Behavioral Health Court, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Will you have the next one also?
Or Sarah.
Oh, sorry, it's Sarah. Come on up, Sarah. Okay, item 9 is consideration of a resolution in the matter of proclaiming March 2024 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County. And with us, we have Sarah Ermer, Prevention Specialist from Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here. I present on behalf of the Tillamook Family Counseling Center Prevention Services a resolution proclaiming this month, March of 2024, Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County. Despite being legally available for adults, gambling is an activity that carries risk and may cause problems for some individuals and families. Gambling becomes problem gambling, in short, when an individual continues to gamble after experiencing negative impacts on their life. Research estimates that for each person experiencing problem gambling, an average of 6 other people in their life are impacted by their problem gambling. And the Oregon Health Authority estimates that 88,000 adults and adolescents in our state meet the criteria for a gambling disorder. Taken that each of them impacts 6 others in their life, that is 528,000, more than 500,000 Oregonians who are negatively impacted by gambling. There are an additional 180,000 individuals in Oregon who are at risk of developing a problem gambling disorder. And all of this amounts to an estimated $500 million price tag due to loss of work productivity, criminal activity, high rates of bankruptcy, and addiction. But this does not have to be the case. Problem gambling is a public health concern that can be prevented through education and environmental change. Though the Tillamook Family Counseling Center does not currently have a problem gambling clinician on staff, individuals seeking treatment or support for problem gambling can contact the Oregon Problem Gambling Resource by calling 1-877-MY-LIMIT to speak to certified problem gambling counselor or going to opgr.org to access their live chat. Gamblers Anonymous also offers virtual meetings accessible at gamblersanonymous.org. A major step toward reducing instances of problem gambling in our community is changing the climate around it. I'm asking you to support this change by proclaiming this month Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners?
Thank you so much for bringing this forward, Sarah, and it's very nice to meet you as our new prevention coordinator in Tillamook County. Can I put you on the spot and ask you to do just a quick introduction of yourself so that folks in the public can know a little bit more about who you are and how you made your way to Tillamook County?
Sure, I'm happy to. Yeah, so my name's Sarah Ermer. I'm the new prevention specialist at Tillamook Family Counseling Center. I started at the beginning of February, so I've been here for about 5 weeks now, still a little bit new, but I made my way up here from Corvallis for this position. And I'm loving it so far. It's beautiful, you know, hearing about all the parks. I was taking notes of all the parks that I need to make sure that I go to. Yeah, and so I have a background in public health, and so this falls squarely into that. You know, gambling is considered the only behavioral addiction according to the DSM. And so it's the only one where, you know, you're not ingesting an addictive substance or anything. This is completely behavioral, and because of that, it can be very easy to hide. So people around you might not realize that you have a gambling disorder because, you know, you don't have any injection sites or you don't have any physical withdrawals. Yeah, and so that's where my interest lies, in problem gambling prevention.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I appreciate the introduction. You know, problem gambling is, as you have described, such a massive issue. And I think one of the things that we have talked about it past years when we've done this is how kids are being engaged into this at a very young age with telephones and the games that you play. You know, they encourage you to gamble, right? You may be it seems so harmless. You're growing a farm on your phone, right? But look, the flowers bloomed, and if you pay 5 more little coins, you can plant 5 more flowers, right? So there's this piece where there's this sort of you're getting rewarded for these things at a very early age. And I've read somewhere that they add the dinging noises to those games that are actually the same dinging noises that you hear when you walk through a casino. And so there is this early induction in many ways for gamblers to be born and raised and groomed into this. And as you say, for some people, it will not cause a problem. But for others, it will become a serious and significant problem. So I think it's important that we talk about it. It's like so many different things that come with addiction. We don't want to talk about them. There's a stigma. If you find yourself in that situation, you want to hide it because you're ashamed and you feel like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. But in reality, this is part of life, right? This is a disorder like other medical disorders, right? It is a behavioral health disorder. So just talking about it is important, and saying it can happen to you. And if it does happen to you, get some help. It's okay to get help. So thank you for being here, helping us bring that to the community in a really positive way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, first of all, welcome to Tillamook County. You will find we're a little different than Corvallis, so we have an ocean nearby, very nearby. But Corvallis is a nice area too. I have no problem with this at all. I support it. We have, my wife and I have a family friend who has a situation that would fall into this category, and I think we all know someone. I would like to say, however, that this issue has troubled me for a long time, and I'll just make a statement that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here directly. I find the state of Oregon an extreme hypocrite, along with others, because almost the second, or maybe it's the third now, third largest source of revenue to the state of Oregon is the Oregon State Lottery. And it's in its several forms, whether it's the scratch-off tickets or the video and so on. And I will say on the record, I'm not adverse to gambling. I'm not a moralizer at all. I try to get to Nevada once or twice a year. I have 2 casinos within less than an hour from our home in South County, and I go there probably every couple of months, have lunch and give them $100, or sometimes I get $100, go the other way. And I understand that. And I understand some people, it goes beyond that and becomes a serious problem. But the state of Oregon itself, along with, I think, about maybe 40 other states, I know Utah and some others don't have a state lottery, but many do, most do, and it becomes they become hooked on it big time. In the state of Oregon, I just looked it up this morning, the state of Oregon nets over $1 billion off other people's, their freedom to gamble and their willingness to do it. And if you go in various establishments, you'll see the video terminals, and they're almost always full of people. And I'm not sure that's what the state of Oregon should be doing as a government, but that's just my personal opinion. And again, I'm not moralizing. I'm not necessarily a religious person, and I'm certainly not anti-gambling. But I find it extremely hypocritical that our own government would do this, and then on the other hand say, well, you better get some help because we've helped put you there. You know, how does that compute? I don't think it does. And again, nothing on you personally. You've got a career ahead of you, and you're doing good work, I'm sure, and you wouldn't have been offered a position if you didn't have sufficient qualifications. So good for you, and thank you for being here. But I wanted to put that on the record that for years I've thought the states across America, and Oregon in particular, have worsened the problem. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, welcome, Sarah. Welcome to the community. Welcome to your new job. Welcome to our meeting. I hope that we'll see more of you in the future. And thanks for bringing this forward. I too think that it's great. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to talk about this, just to socialize the problem. I appreciate what you said about that it can be a hidden addiction because the signs aren't as obvious. And we very likely don't know all the people around us who have problems with gambling unless we know them closely. But to Commissioner Olson's point, I bet every single one of us knows people with gambling problems, and just right off the bat, I can think of 5 or 6. And I've seen gambling destroy people's families. I've seen people who lost their homes, lost their businesses. You know, it's very serious. And I read at one point that among all the addictions, gambling had the highest percentage of suicide. So, you know, it's very serious. And I think the point that you're making, Commissioner Olson, was excellent, because the state does actively participate, provides a venue for this particular addiction, but the state also does the same thing in terms of regulating alcohol sales. So, so I'm glad that, I get your point and I don't deny it, and I'm glad that the state built in part of the money that's generated in gambling goes to the treatment of gambling addiction, and so thank goodness for that. It's interesting, we were in a meeting recently with the Economic Development Council, and the Economic Development Council's funding comes from video lottery. And we were talking about that, like the funding that gets funneled to local businesses to build our economy, which is all good, comes from people playing video lottery. It's very curious. It's a very interesting system. And because people were talking about, well, it's our tax dollars. Well, kind of, but it's actually video lottery. And so, yeah, I think I'm fascinated by what you said earlier about this is the only addiction that is not induced. It's not, people are not ingesting something. And so that's just fascinating to me, you know, scientifically. Like, how does that work? People must become addicted to the chemicals that are being produced in their own brains. So rather than taking a drink or whatever, you know, they gamble, the brain produces something, dopamine maybe, and people become addicted to that cycle. So it's a behavioral addiction. It's fascinating. So, and it's also interesting, thankfully, not everyone has that problem. So, you know, thank goodness. Thank goodness not everyone has that problem, but it's a very serious problem for the people who do. So I am glad to support this resolution. And shall we read it? Do you mind reading it?
No, I can absolutely read it. So, in the matter of proclaiming March 2024 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon, resolution number R-24-003. This matter came before the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners on March 13th, 2024, at the request of the Tillamook Family Counseling Center. The board, being fully appraised of the records and files within, finds as follows. Gambling is an activity that carries risk for some people and may cause problems for individuals and families. Problem gambling is defined as continuing to gamble after experiencing negative impacts to one's life. According to the Oregon Health Authority, it is estimated that 88,000 adults and adolescents in Oregon meet the criteria for a gambling disorder, with an additional 180,000 at risk of developing a problem with gambling. According to the Oregon Health Authority, problem gambling cost Oregonians an estimated $500 million in loss of work productivity, criminal activity, high rates of bankruptcy, and addiction problems. Problem gambling is a public health concern that can be prevented. Free and confidential problem gambling treatment is available at Tillamook Family Counseling Center. To learn more about free and confidential treatment, call the Oregon Problem Gambling Resources Helpline at 1-877-MY-LIMIT, which is 695-4648, or learn online at oprg.org. Now let it be resolved that the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim March 2024 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County. Madam Chair, I move approval of this resolution.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for bringing this forward. All right, moving on to item 10, consideration of a letter of commitment to participate in an Oregon Department of Environmental Quality application for the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. With us, we have Parker Sammons, Housing Coordinator from Tillamook Department of Community Development.
It's nice to see you all again.
Good
I think we'll
morning.
have to make this a regular thing. Yes, I'm here today to ask you to sign on to a letter for through the Department of Environmental Quality of Oregon, who are applying to the EPA for a grant for space-efficient housing. This would be a $20,000 incentive per unit for houses or homes averaging 800 square feet or less. And it does have income requirements so that they are all in the affordable and workforce level housing. And that is that 60 to 120% AMI range. The DEQ came to us because we have an established system of having a competitive grant program. So the reason why this opportunity has come to us is because of the ongoing and fabulous historical work of the Housing Commission. And because of them, this money came to us, which I don't expect to often be the case, but I'm enjoying the trend. One of the great things about this opportunity is that they are looking for organizations like the Housing Commission who have an established competitive grant program, which means that we will have the majority of control over these funds. It will pass through our Housing Commission. We will do the evaluations in the same way that I presented to you last week about. And so this would be another application within the Housing Commission and another lever for us to help solve the housing crisis here. There are very few strings to this. The strings are that there needs to be a 10% overall carbon reduction in the construction process. In speaking with our developer partners, they have told me that this is not a problem to achieve and that most of them already include the necessary practices to achieve that. So this would not be a terribly hard burden for them to achieve. Beyond that, there would be Davis-Bacon Prevailing Wage Act involved in this for some of our projects, those that request over $750,000 from this fund. Most of our projects will not, and will not have to deal with the prevailing wage aspect of this, but some of them will. I think that that is all of the important bits. This fund, or this opportunity, also comes with a hefty amount of administration. The overall allocation for Tillamook County for this grant program is $3.6 million. So if this is a successful application through DEQ, that is how much would come back to Tillamook County to help affordable and workforce space-efficient housing. And it also comes again with the administration of 5% of that to help with the cost of administering that. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Questions?
No questions. I'm just delighted. So, you know, we at the Housing Commission and have constantly said, gosh, if we just had more money, if we just had more money to give away. And Parker, I don't know if you remember how much was requested off the top of your head in this last round, but I know it was far more than we had.
Yes.
And that's always troubling. You know, I know that, for example, the Manzanita Pines project absolutely would qualify for this funds without any question. I know Parker's gone back and chatted with Ben Gray, who's the developer, to say, would it qualify? Would you apply for it? And the answer was yes and yes. And they had asked for $400,000, and we were only able to give them, I believe, $75,000. So this is an opportunity to take projects that are already applying to the Housing Commission fund, that already meet all of these requirements, and help push them over the finish line. So this is a great opportunity. And the fact that DEQ approached us is just, it is a huge, huge kudos to everyone who's been doing housing work in Tillamook County since it really began. You know, I mean, the Housing Task Force, Housing Commission, Commissioner Bartline's work, and work that I've been able to pick up. I mean, this is because we've built the right mechanism that DEQ is coming to us and saying, well, we've got about 3.5 million. Can you use it, right? So delighted is where I am, and that we have the developer partners on board. So I think that this is what we've been hoping for. We've been hoping to build a structure and a readiness that brings developers to our community and brings funding to our community. So I am obviously in support. Parker and I did look carefully at what the requirements were to make sure we were not committing Tillamook County to something that we could not do. We are already, will be monitoring the affordability of these units for the $75,000 they have received. So that's no additional work. And while there are strings for us and monitoring those strings, we feel like it's really manageable. So super excited and super hopeful that this will go forward.
Terrific. Thank you. Commissioner?
Well, thank you. Couple of questions. The money, the 3 million, 3.6, how many units will that end up providing roughly?
180.
180, so do the math on that, that's not too much per unit.
That's 20,000 per unit.
20, and that's a subsidy, not necessarily the total cost, or can you acquire a unit for that amount of money?
Generally, no, this is not to build the entire unit. This is to help make it more affordable of a project to
Okay, a
pencil.
subsidy against the total,
Yes.
okay, got it. So when the money is gone, what happens?
The program ends and we have houses. But we will continue to be looking for additional sources of funding to make
course.
sure that our coffers stay full.
So the reason I ask the question that way is I've seen so many programs of one sort or another that start with the best of intentions and actually build a clientele and things are looking really good, then the funding dries up and then everyone looks to the local providers, meaning the county or the city or whoever got the money in the first place to continue the program. And that puts extreme pressure on that organization then to scratch up money that was coming from elsewhere.
Yes.
And so what you're telling me, when this money is gone, that part of the program ends. But in the meantime, if you're doing your job correctly, there's some other hope coming from money either being renewed or coming from another source, and it continues on.
Yes, like I
Okay.
said, we'll be making this a regular thing, and I'll be coming back to you with other funding opportunities soon. But one of the aspects of this is that it does have a sunset date, and all of the money does need to be spent within 5 years. So this is a very targeted program and is not meant to be an ongoing funding source for the activities that we do through the Housing Commission. Fortunately, again, we do have our own established funding sources through the support of the short-term rental community, for which we are very grateful. So we will continue to have an ongoing in and out of our housing funds as we find and execute opportunities.
And so the only other string then, you mentioned 10% carbon reduction, that's in the construction side of it or the acquisition part of it, and that seems like that's achievable, as you said, without too much trouble.
It is, and I won't pretend to understand how the math is done to calculate the 10% reduction, but in speaking with our developer partners, they have told me that it is a quite simple calculation for them to do. If you're an architect or a developer, you will understand this. So it's not a very difficult calculation to do, and it's not a unreasonable percentage to reduce.
Okay, well, then I have no other questions, thank you. And it seems to me this is another step forward to solve one of our most difficult problems in this area, in fact, across all our land. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm also excited about this opportunity. I'll just talk about it for a minute. As I looked into the funding, and it's clear that the money originally is federal money, and it comes from the Infrastructure Act. And it's moved from the feds through the Infrastructure Act to the
And EPA.
Thank you, Environmental Protection Agency, and through the EPA comes through Oregon DEQ, and through Oregon DEQ will come to Tillamook County if we execute this agreement. So I'm grateful for that, and we received some, or at least I received concerned email from a concerned citizen about, why does the county want to be involved with DEQ? Because there are a lot of local businesses, local industry that has had strained relationships with DEQ, and people are worried that we want to be involved with DEQ. So I just want to make it clear that we want housing, and this money just came to us. DEQ is choosing the organizations that will use this money to create housing. And it's not locking us into any of those conditions, the carbon reduction or the square footage, et cetera, the affordable housing. It's not locking us into any conditions for any future projects that aren't directly tied to this funding. So that was part of the concern that I heard is, what, is Tillamook County going to start telling people what size of houses they can build? No, this is specific to this program. And so it's, I just think it's a remarkable opportunity. And as other folks have already said, the reason this is possible is because community development has been doing this work for at least several years. so that we're prepared to do this. We're prepared to administer these grants. And so, so from my perspective, there's no downside. We've talked before in these meetings about how in Tillamook County, part of the issue with housing, not exclusively, but one of the issues is that builders can build multi-million-dollar ocean view homes that are profitable. And so it's hard for them to sign on to an affordable housing project that's far less profitable, or maybe not at all, even if they have a heart for it. And I've talked to developers who have a heart for it, who say, I'd like to do senior housing, or I'd like to do multifamily housing, but I can't afford it. And so this makes something like that possible. If there are grants available to incentivize builders to build affordable housing, and they have a heart for it, then that makes it profitable for them to do it. Because so it is business supportive, it is business positive, because we're not asking people to do projects where they can't make any money. We want to provide an incentive so that people can profitably do the work of building affordable housing. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I appreciate Sarah's leadership in this and also yours, Parker, so thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to add one more bit that's a hidden benefit within this that might not be immediately apparent. A lot of the work we do goes to support the developers who build the affordable housing in our community, which is very essential. But one of the elements of this fund is that it can go to support ADUs. So there's a portion of these funds that will have an opportunity to flow directly to citizens who are also involved in solving the housing crisis on a more individual level. So unlike our multifamily rental housing fund that is focusing on larger footprint buildings with multiple units, this could assist a single homeowner, which is something I really like about it as well.
That is exciting. Yeah, that's great. So Sarah, to that point, can I ask you for to speak to the date when, I know you're working on the ordinance revision that will make it possible for Tillamook County citizens to build ADUs?
Thank you, Chair Bell. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so the first hearing is tomorrow night.
Woohoo!
So the Planning Commission will be hearing the accessory dwelling unit ordinance language proposals for the rural residential zone, along with the RV siting standards that will also be able to help us address immediate housing needs. This work will come to the board for consideration at a public hearing on April 17th. So had a wonderful conversation with the Housing Commission about this work last Thursday. Very compelling, really provided that affirmation that we're doing the right work and the work where we need to do it. So fingers crossed for tomorrow night for a positive recommendation. And then I look forward to seeing you all on the 17th of April for the second hearing.
Wonderful, thank you. So it's very exciting timing that will become possible for homeowners to do, and this fund will become available for them to apply to.
Yes, and we already have our accessory dwelling unit provisions in place for residential properties in our unincorporated communities. So in getting this money, we've got I would say half of our county properties ready to go where this money will be accessible and an option. And then depending on how these hearings work out for the rural residential zone, essentially anywhere where we could consider development of an ADU in unincorporated Tillamook County, it will be available. Just super exciting.
Yeah, okay.
And to avoid anybody calling my office tomorrow about this, these funds will begin to become available in October.
Okay, thank you. All right.
One more question, Parker. So this is a letter of support for their grant. Do we have any idea of how certain this is? Is this sort of, DEQ just applies, or is this competitive at the EPA level?
They have expressed a high confidence level in their ability to take down not only the grant, but at the level that they have communicated.
Perfect. So we're not 100% in,
Not
but we
100%,
are
but we're
hopefully
feeling pretty good about
pretty
it.
close.
Yeah.
So yeah, and at $20,000 per unit, if you're thinking about that ADU impact, that's really significant. And if you're thinking about the apartment issue, it's also impactful. I was talking with the developer for Manzanita Pines, and he needs about $7 million more than what he currently has to have that project pencil. So while he's not going to get $7 million out of this fund, he's going to be working with a lot of different pieces, among those tax credits at the state, LIFT at the state. But this can be a significant piece of that that makes that project come to fruition as opposed to having it leave the community. So really important funding.
Ben told me that this would help him get to the LIFT grant.
Perfect, perfect.
And if I may,
Please.
I don't want to go out over my skis too far, but since we're on the conversation, and there might be another great step to this, community development is partnering with the Building Codes Division to create code-compliant ADU plans that could essentially be already approved and ready to go. And we're creating that at that 800 square foot maximum so that it will meet our ADU standards for most of our unincorporated communities, the rural residential zone, and meet the requirements of this funding. So if the sun and the stars and the moon align, within, 6 to 8 months, we could actually literally have somebody come in and apply for a permit. And if they like the plans and they want to build what we have on file, literally leave with that as well.
Wow.
So bigger picture, we're trying to, maximize our resources on all fronts in the department. And yes, thank you for all of the work you're doing.
Thank you. And one more star that could align on this is I have asked all of the architects partners who have received multifamily rental housing fund allocations to consider contributing a publicly available ADU design, and most have seemed very excited about that.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, more to come.
Nice. Okay, this is good news.
It is. There's a reason that across the state, when people talk housing, they talk about Tillamook County as a leader. So thank you both for all the work you're doing to keep that just being true for us. People see us as a leader, and it's your work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I'm good with where we're headed. This is good news.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, Madam Chair, in consideration of a letter of a commitment to participate in an Oregon Department of Environmental Quality application for the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, I would move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay, item 11 is consideration of a revised non-represented non-exempt, non-represented exempt, executive service, elected official, part-time temporary, health provider, and justice facility pay tables fiscal year 2023-2024, effective January 1st, 2024. And with us, we have Tillamook County Treasurer Sean Blanchard.
Hello, I brought these to you back in January, along with the AFSCME tables that were adopted at the time. These were pulled because there were many questions about them. I think all the questions have been answered now. I would hope so, because I kind of feel like these have been beat like a dead horse. So I'm hoping that you will adopt them and we can move on with our next round of pay studies.
Commissioners?
Thank you. Thank you, Treasurer Blanchard. Yes, the pay studies have been a great project. I think our compensation philosophy and everything that we have worked over the last, I guess it's been the full 3 years I've been in this position, have been challenging, with the county not having done a pay study for at least 10 years. The work raised a lot of questions. People were not familiar with the methodology. They were not familiar with what outcomes were going to happen and what that might look like. So I'm pleased that we have gotten through that first round. I'm excited as well to start the second round, which really has to do with looking at job descriptions across the county to make sure they are accurate and that everyone is classified properly. So it's exciting to put the first phase of our compensation study behind us, in a sense, by making sure that everyone who came out under market is receiving an adjustment, and that as well the COLAs that folks have been waiting on will be applied. So it's good work, and I'm pleased to be done with that phase.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I too support where we are, and I know it's taken some time to get here, and it was pulled off the agenda at one time very recently. I've had a lot of experience over the years with these sorts of studies, and it's a moving target. As soon as something is finalized and there are comparators of similar organizations, in our case counties, then the county who ends up at the bottom says, oh my goodness, we've got to do something about that. And then they do something and they move up, and it becomes a leapfrog exercise over the years. But at some point you say, okay, we're at the 97 or 99% threshold, let's call it good, and do it again. And what I understand the commitment is on this, if we adopt this now, and I'm prepared to support it as it is, that it will be done again in 18 to 24 months. This is not just a static thing that we'll put on the shelf and say, okay, we're done, and we'll look at it again next decade. This is in fact a living document, is my understanding, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. So I'm in support. What's there, the logic and the rationale behind it, I think makes sense. I think it's also imperfect because I think it's impossible to create a perfect document like this. There are just too many variables, too many what-ifs, and too many interpretations. And while some jobs are virtually identical across our state or across the nation for that matter, almost every job has something a bit different than something that has a similar title elsewhere. And so you have to say, okay, this is good work. It makes sense. There's a measure of fairness and equity, and but it's imperfect, and we'll do it again in X number of years. So I think that's where we are, and if I'm misspeaking, please say so. If not, then I'm prepared to adopt this, take it forward, and call it good for now.
Thank you. I don't think you're misspeaking. I'm grateful for this work. I'm grateful to the Treasurer's Office that just does an outstanding job, and also to the HR department. I was reflecting on when I was sworn in as Commissioner 2019, we were talking about a wage and comp study, and we were talking about a pay equity study. And for a variety of reasons, it's taken us this long to accomplish it. So this is a significant accomplishment for us. And I agree that it isn't perfect. And I doubt I don't mean just our work isn't perfect. I think because of the nature of this work, it isn't perfect. We can't always find exact comparators. As soon as we get a comparison, then another county has already gone through another cycle, and so the comparator numbers move, and so it just isn't, it's part science and it's part art. And I think this is a very good effort, and it's a vast improvement over what we had before, and we definitely should move forward with it, and then immediately anticipate the next one. So I feel like we've made great improvements, and we're really on the right track. So I'm ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of revised, non-represented, non-exempt, non-represented exempt, executive service, elected official, part-time temporary, health provider, and justice facility pay tables, fiscal year 2023-2024, effective January 1, 2024, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. If I could just say one thing, I would ask directors, and Jody, if I'm out of turn, please stop me. I would ask the directors, when this next study comes out, please look at your job descriptions for your employees. You know what goes on in your office. I don't know what goes on in the assessor's office. I don't know what goes on in justice court. Please look at those job descriptions for your employees, have them review them, and that will move this along hopefully a lot smoother in this next study.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Jody, is there anything you want to say about that?
No, I think I want Sean to carry all my future compensation study agenda items. Thank you, Sean. We do have a proposal that will be a future board agenda to engage with Troop for the next phase of the study. To Commissioner Bell or Chair Bell's position, yes, we are going to be going right back into the next study. These do take quite a bit of time, and so we'll see that on a future agenda item. And I also just wanted to mention that if a position changes over time and that there is something that has changed that would require us to look at it, the county does have a reclass procedure. You ask for a reclassification form, we ask questions, and we'll look at that mid-year if your job has changed over time, so you're no longer doing the same work. And we know due to COVID, due to staffing, due to vacant positions, sometimes work does change over time. So I just want to remind employees and supervisors that is a path. It's not a guarantee that it's going to result in a higher increase, but we do take about 60 days and we will be able to review those and get those back to our managers and employees if in the meantime there is something that has significantly changed.
Thank you. I
And thanks
appreciate
again,
it.
Sean, for carrying this item.
So you're welcome to stay with us, Jody, because you have the next item, which is item 12, consideration of an engagement letter with CDR Labor Law LLC for bargaining with Teamsters Local Union 223. Jody Wilson, Director of Human Resources.
Good morning. This is a requisition or an engagement letter to work with a labor attorney to work with the Teamsters bargaining unit. We have traditionally worked with Peck Rubinoff, and just due to the timing of our current environment, they are not available to be working with us on this particular engagement. So we have brought in, forget his last name after a moment, but we did bring in Adam. He was highly recommended by Peck Rubinoff, as well as our Teamsters group. Normally, Washington County works with our same Teamsters rep, so I contacted Ogletree and Dinkins, who runs the Washington County bargaining, and they had highly recommended Adam's firm as well. So this is hopefully a one-time request, but we will get through bargaining. We start bargaining as early as April with the Teamster group.
All right, thank you. Questions?
No questions for me. I think we need to get our bargaining done with Teamsters. I think it needs to be completed by July. Is that when the contract, I think, ends? So we're ready to jump in with both feet and get it done, and we obviously need a bargaining attorney on our team.
Oh, thank you. No, my only comment would be labor law, as I think most people know, is a specialty that you simply don't take someone who's practiced in other areas of laws and expect that individual to step up and negotiate fairly complex contracts. So like so many things, it's a specialty, and my understanding is, and I don't know this particular attorney or the counsel in their firm, but if they specialize in labor law and come highly recommended, then that's exactly what we need, so I'm in support of that.
Thank you. I am in support as well, so I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an engagement letter with CDR Labor Law LLC for bargaining with Teamsters Local Union 223, I would move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
Item 13 is consideration of a 2024 Tillamook Peoples Utility District Community Support Grant application for the American Disabilities Act compliant doors for Tillamook County Library branches. With us, we have Tillamook County Library Director Don Allgaier. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am happy today to have before you a grant proposal for making the doors at both the North County Library and South County Library accessible with the buttons you're probably familiar with in lots of public buildings that you can push and the door opens and people are able to access the building much easier. We don't have that at those two buildings. It's been something that both the libraries identified over time and the Friends have identified over time as being an issue. And we are hoping that the PUD will be supportive of this need. The total amount of the award is $9,500. And the period of time would be I think they announced the award in March, and then it would be through December. We expect that the actual money would be expended in the next fiscal year, and that it would be a major benefit to the community. So glad to answer any questions you might have about that.
Thank you. I think that sounds wonderful. Commissioners?
No questions. You know, I think that we have over the last year had a number of different folks bring to our attention the real need for our communities to focus, and the county particularly, to focus on inclusivity. I don't want to say accessibility, because to your point earlier, Commissioner Bell, we're not just looking to meet ADA. We need to be looking at inclusivity. We need to be saying, how in our communities do we design things in a way that absolutely everyone can have the same experience that anyone else does, so regardless of your ability. So I know this is a step toward that with the ADA accessibility, and I appreciate that very much, and encourage us to continue to look at things through that lens of inclusivity.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm pretty familiar with this process, having sat on the PUD board for 15 years and reviewed these grant applications. I can tell you this year's budget, which I was a part of putting together before the start of the fiscal year, January 1, there's $100,000 in this year's budget, and it's typically oversubscribed by about 3 to 1, meaning there'd be like $300,000 or $400,000 of applications for $100,000. So I will give you one tip here on the public record, but make some noise about having the doors sealed tightly and save energy. That may move you up a notch or two on how it's determined, but it's a wonderful program. Over the years, I can tell you, PUD, our local electric utility, has put into the community, I think coming up on a couple of $1 million since the program was started maybe 18, 20 years ago. And it goes out at a maximum of $10,000. So it's not a lot of money, but it allows a lot of smaller organizations to do a lot of good things and leverage something into maybe a little bigger project. So this is a good thing, and if you don't get it this time around, submit it again. So with that, I'm certainly in support of turning in and then go from there, and we'll see how it plays out. But I will tell you for sure, there'll be $100,000 going back into our community.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks for the tip on the grant application. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of a 2024 Tillamook People Utilities District Community Support Grant application for American Disabilities Act compliant doors for Tillamook County Library branches, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, Don, as you know, you have the next item also. Item 14, consideration of a State Library of Oregon Teen Internship Grant application for 2024.
Yes, thank you. And going back to the last measure, I would be remiss not to mention the leadership that Jen Wells, our library branches manager, showed with that PUD grant, put it all together. Was presenting it to you, but it is the result of her work. So I just wanted to make sure I was giving her the appropriate shout out that she deserves.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
This grant that is before you is a State of Library of Oregon grant that is for teen interns to come and work in libraries. We utilized this grant last year very successfully and had a young person in the community come and work at the library and gain experience. They worked on the Grub Club part of summer reading, where we provide lunches. People can come in, they can play in the children's room, they can get food and check out library resources. Produced 2 programs around mask making, which were really, really excellent. One, I believe, at our South County branch, and then one here at the Tillamook main branch. So we're really excited in the second year, because that was our first year, to think about how we can refine that process, make sure there's more mentorship as part of the project, just, the tweaks that you get after your very first year of doing something. We're applying for this. This position would be really focused in on helping to support our summer reading program, and then again doing that connected learning project, which is really them developing a project that is available to the community in some way, shape, or form. It was really great to read the various projects that went on around the state. this last year done by young people throughout the state. So it's exciting for us. It shows people a way forward in terms of working at the library. I think a way forward in terms of working at the county. Jody's been a really great help in moving this forward last year. So a big appreciation to her. And I'm glad to answer any questions you might have about this grant.
Thank you, Don. Commissioner, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. It sounds like a good opportunity again, and my belief in libraries is let's have more. They're a mark of a civilized society. Maybe that's a little trite, but I like libraries, and they bring people in when they're young and eager. Good for us, good for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. This sounds like a fabulous program. I wish it had been around when my daughter was looking for summer work, because she is a reader, and that is in part to our Tillamook County Library system. She, for her whole life, would come home with an armload of books every week. So I think it is important to engage our young people. I think it's fabulous to be able to have a teen intern. I don't know how often people think about, gee, do I want to go into the library sciences? But that is it is a great field to be in. And if we can engage some teenagers to actually touch in and feel what that might be like, I think that's a fabulous opportunity, not to mention what they provide back to the community. So I think this is great.
Thank you, as do I. It is a terrific opportunity for a local young person and also for the library. I was thinking recently about a summer youth employment program that I participated in as a youth. And when I was 14, I was hired by a summer youth employment program that employed young kids on Mount Hood and the Mount Hood National Forest. And it was a really powerful experience for me, and really life-changing in terms of what I learned there, and what I learned that I loved, what I learned that I love to do. So I think that there are opportunities for formative experiences for young people, and the library is a fabulous place for people to learn about that. So I'm really glad that you are that you're applying for this and willing to host another teen intern. So thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of a State Library of Oregon teen internship grant application for 2024, I would move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
And next we have Isabel Gilda, our executive assistant. She is presenting item 15, which is consideration of modification number 2 to personal services agreement number 6452 with Civic Plus LLC for the Civic Clerk Agenda Management System Services.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is a change order to our current agreement with Civic Plus for a new online agenda management system, which we recently started using in January. And only for the commissioners' meetings, the board meetings, and community update call. The agenda management parent company is Civic Plus. The module we're using is Civic Clerk. So sometimes you'll see those Civic Plus, Civic Clerk. They're essentially referring to the same item. The modification before you is for continued agenda management services through February 2025. With an annual agreement, we make a change order every year to continue for the service. So as I mentioned, we started the new system in January, and for those who are not familiar with our new agenda management system, allows us to streamline the entire process of agenda submission to the posting online. We have a new portal that can be accessed via our website, and it allows us to create, essentially the agenda goes directly online. Once it's posted, we can make changes to the agenda, unscheduled, postponed, it can go right online. And so it really, the system is a time-saving tool for staff. And we can also live stream our meetings, which we're doing what Debbie is doing right now in the back. Staff is also a time saver for non-BOCC staff, where they can submit their agenda items via the system, and they upload their documents, so everything lives in the one place. There's no more back and forth emails, documents can exchange, everything lives in the system. So that's enormously helpful. Another, which I think is a great feature, the new online meeting portal, is that increases accessibility and transparency for the public. So currently, if you're watching the live stream video right now, you can listen and watch the meeting. You can also simultaneously view the agenda and the agenda documents. So you can really open up those documents and review them as they're being discussed. So that I find is very helpful. There's an online calendar where you can look at past meetings and all the documents for those, and then future meetings. So we haven't had that before. So that's a great feature. And once the live stream is finished, the video is almost immediately updated to the system. There's a little processing that takes place. But so if you missed a meeting, you can go right online. If you missed half of it, you can go watch the rest of it almost immediately. And another feature that we tied into the Civic Clerk was we always posted our videos on YouTube and on our website, but YouTube now has a feature where it allows you this closed captioning and there's translation, endless amount of language translation. So that's a big feature for the public. And so, like I said, the modification takes us through February 2025, and hopefully we'll get your consideration and approval. And a big thank you to Debbie. There's been a lot of training involved, and Debbie has really stepped up. She's become our expert in Civic Clerk, so.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
I think this has been a great transition. I know transitions to technology always have hiccups and bumps along the way. And of course, that's, it has happened here as well, but that's expected. I have never implemented a new piece of technology, and I've implemented a few across my time as executive director of CARE and other organizations I've been a part of. So really, this has gone pretty smoothly, and it is an amazing efficiency for the county. And I think that as we are looking to the future, we'll talk at board concerns, I'm sure, a bit more about the HCP and the impacts we expect from that. We're going to have to be working smarter, not harder, because we're not going to have the ongoing resources. We're going to have to implement things like this that make it easier for everyone to do what they do in less time, things that manage our documents in an effective and efficient way, as opposed to having to scan and upload and all of the things that went with the agenda management previously. The time that went with getting the videos ready to upload, getting them uploaded. We were often, behind by weeks and weeks because of the time it took to translate from the Teams platform that we were using to get it ready to upload. There was just a lot of pieces there that led to delays. And that isn't fair to the public. You're right, the transparency is a key piece. So this is a step in the efficiency and effectiveness of the county that needed to happen. And I'm super thankful for you and Debbie and your work to bring it online. I thankfully didn't have to touch it until it was fully ready to go. So thank you for that.
It did take some time, and it wasn't without its glitches, but
Yeah.
we had some great staff at the IAS department who helped sort out and iron out those glitches. But I think we're there. I think we finally, there's a lot of features in the Civic Clerk we haven't even investigated, so there's even more opportunity for time saving for staff.
Perfect, thank you.
Wonderful. Commissioner?
Well, thank you. I would echo what Commissioner Scar said, is whenever you bring on a new system of fairly high complexity, there's always something goes wrong or something that could be improved. And, that's even after the beta testing that should have taken place. So my only question, we're not alone in the state of Oregon or the region. I'm assuming this stuff is out there and being fairly widely adopted now?
No, this is a whole agenda management system.
No, but
specifically designed-
other governments, local governments are using it as well, and so we're hardly the first.
No.
And so we all work together then, and the firm, as I understand it, has been quite cooperative. When something's not right, they stand behind it and fix it.
They've been very helpful in getting us through the implementation process from the beginning, because there was a lot of customized features in the development of the software for Tillamook County. And so that's what took most of the time, I think, in the startup. But no, they've been with us. We've had to contact them last minute when things didn't go right, and they've always been very supportive. So the customer, I can speak to the customer service. And part of the agreement terms is that we have ongoing customer service. We have an account with them. If we run into other issues, we just submit a ticket and they respond very quickly, I may add.
Would you characterize this as user-friendly for someone sitting out in the, in his or her home and looking at it? In other words, you can get online and watch what's going on or get an idea of the agenda and so on?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of his biggest features is, like I said, the accessibility for the public, because you can't, what you're seeing right now in the room is what the public see. And they see the commissioners, they see the presentation, and those who are joining via Teams, that's all live streamed. And then on the same page, on our Tillamook County Public Portal, you can also view the agenda. So you don't get lost in the meeting, you know exactly what's being discussed. Whenever you announce the agenda item, a member of the public can listen to it, watch the video, and look at the documents at the same time. We're discussing this change order. Somebody could open up that document and read it word for word. So they have that full accessibility. And then after the meeting, if they miss something, they can always go back and watch the video and watch every motion that's made. So.
Well, thank you. I have one friend who's well into his 90s. He's waiting to see if computers are here to stay before he makes an investment. But I think that this is good, and these are things that we need to do, as was pointed out. If it makes things easier for our citizens to see what's going on and transparent, makes sense to me. So good for us, good for everybody.
Thank you. I agree. I think it's going really well. My thanks to you, Isabel, to Debbie, to the IS department for the implementation. It's a big lift to take on a new system. And so I really appreciate your work in that. There's a lot of stress involved. And I agree with Commissioner Scar that it's far more efficient. So it's really, I can see how it is and will continue to be really helpful to you and
I think
to
it will
your
just,
office.
Sorry, I think it will just grow further and it'll become more helpful as we go on.
Terrific. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Perfect. Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 2 to Personal Services Agreement number 6452 with Civic Plus LLC for Civic Clerk Agenda Management System Services, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Isabel.
Commissioners.
And thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie.
Okay, item 16 is board concerns. So you mentioned the HCP. Would you like to start us off?
I will start us off, thank you. So last week I gave a fairly long description of the HCP and the vote that was to be taken by the Board of Forestry, so I won't repeat all of that here today, but invite you to watch last week's meeting if you want more detail on that. What I will share is that I did share testimony in Salem on Wednesday afternoon with the Board of Forestry, and on Thursday morning, they heard additional testimony from folks around the state before they finally took their vote and approved the HCP as it stands today to move forward, no changes to be made. So as we discussed, that will have financial implications for the Department of Forestry and all 15 of the trust land counties across the state of Oregon that rely on that timber revenue for both county operations as well as our special districts and our schools, all of which will recognize a reduction in revenue. This plan is for the next 70 years, so we don't know what the future will hold for us over the long term. I have requested that our 2 district foresters that provide management and harvest and replanting and all of those great silviculture activities to Tillamook County be with us, along with the Deputy Forest Chief to be with us on March 27th and be our presentation at this meeting. So as I get that confirmed and have the agenda and any materials from them, it will become part of our agenda and be posted so everyone can be present if they would like, whether they'd like to be in the room or observe that presentation online. But specifically, I'm asking them to come and talk to us about the Tillamook County specific revenue impacts that they can foresee in our future. There's been some confusion relating to that because we talked about board feet as opposed to revenue, and District Forester Kate Skinner was clear that in Tillamook County, board feet will remain very similar to what they have historically, but in having the opportunity to sit with Kate and dig a little bit deeper, what I've learned is that while we will still harvest roughly 47 million board feet, the timber that we harvest will be of a different quality and at least a percentage of our sales, because we have large areas of Swiss needlecast and large areas of alder that need to be harvested, and those have a smaller market value than the full healthy fir trees. So as the maps were drawn for the Habitat Conservation Plan and the habitat conservation areas were placed, many of those areas were placed because of owl circles or marbled murrelet habitat, which is the purpose of the Habitat Conservation Plan, but they also were placed over the top of healthy fir forest. So we will have to change a little bit where we are harvesting. It will change the quality of timber. It will change the difficulty of where we have to create roads and go to do the harvest. And in my in-depth conversation with Kate, it indicated that that would have some revenue implications for us. So I want to have them come and talk to us as a full board of commissioners, talk to our community and the public. Similarly, Mike Caffaretta, who's the district forester in the Forest Grove district, a lot of people don't realize that roughly 20 to 25% of the revenue that we receive, again being ourselves school special districts, comes out of a corner of Tillamook County that sits in the other district. And in my conversations, deeper conversations with him, he has indicated board feet there will be reduced. So I'm asking them all to come so that we get the state level perspective as well as our local district forester perspective to help us understand how this will impact Tillamook County, because it's uncertain and it's hard to see in the crystal ball, but they have the clearest view forward. So the HCP is passed. It is coming to a county near you. We will be trying very hard to understand the impacts so that we can plan for our own county governance and can help our local districts and our schools plan for theirs.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Well, I'll just mention a couple of things here since we're on the air. The legislature, I think everyone knows now, adjourned a couple of days early last week, so we can all take a deep breath there and sort of return to normal and stop playing defense and go on offense. A couple of items, and I think these are pretty generally known now, but I'll just repeat it as well. Sand Lake Road between Tierra del Mar and Pacific City now was opened last week. It's been open now almost a week, I think, late today on Wednesday. And so things are reasonably normal. There is a stoplight system where the worst that happens is you're held up for 30 or 40 seconds until the light turns green. And so much better than it was and much more convenient. Another item that I think is important to Tillamook County that we've talked about from time to time was the recreational liability. That particular, well, very quickly what happened, there was a lawsuit in the Newport area where someone was using a trail owned by the city of Newport and had broken a leg and became a bit disabled for a short period of time and ended up suing. There has been for many, many years in the state of Oregon a law known as recreational immunity, meaning that if you crossed over city, county-owned land, public land, or even private land with the permission and something happened, those owners of the land would be relieved of liability. That changed with this lawsuit. And what that meant for cities and counties and even private parties, they began to close their trails and access points. And to the detriment of a lot of things, including people who like to hunt and fish or just get to the beach or whatever. There was a law passed that I think has a life of 18 months in the legislature that just ended. And it provides some additional liability. It restored, should say, the liability was reduced and restored almost to where it was originally, with the understanding the legislature would take up that subject again in the long session next spring. And so we have some relief on that. People can still cross lands to get to wherever they're going and not worry, and the cities and counties won't worry about being sued. Well, I guess they could still be sued, but they would be an affirmative defense. I'll look at my lawyer friend over here when I say that. Just a couple of other things very quickly. I've been going around to the cities, and last 2 nights this week, I've stopped in at Bay City last night and Nehalem on Monday. And I've talked about the things that we just mentioned, including a bit of the habitat conservation plan and that decision. And with only one possible exception, there's been quite a bit of concern about what's happening. So I think, Commissioner, bring in some of the foresters and talk about what might unfold over the next several years is a really, really wise move, because it's confusing. It's going to be detrimental to some more than others. And we need to know as much as we can know as quickly as we can know it, because we're going into the recreation or the budget season, and that will be a part of it. I've also mentioned at these stops, this roadshow I'm doing is, I only have, I think, one more city. I've mentioned the fact that the county is looking at a building here in Tillamook to move the courts into, and talking about what has been on the public record, and that is still under negotiations, but at some point, we may have the opportunity to solve a longstanding problem of our court space and security and so on. So I'm trying to get people to understand there may be a significant change coming their way. And then the same thing with our radio system. I've talked just very briefly that we have a radio system that's considerably out of date. It's 15, 20 or more years old. The parts are in many cases unavailable. And there'll come something later this year where we're going to have to ask the voters to help finance an upgrade to the public safety radio system across Tillamook County. So I'm trying to put down some information and groundwork so when it does become into sharper focus, it won't come as a surprise. So that's all I have to talk about today, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to respond to the Habitat Conservation Plan news. It's very disturbing news for a lot of us. You know, I'm sure there are some people who are celebrating, but I don't personally know any, or rather, they haven't talked to me about it if they are. It's not only concerning for us, for the future function of Tillamook County, but also, of course, for special districts and school districts. And so everybody, to both of my fellow commissioners' points, are wondering, like, oh, okay, what next? What happens now? And how soon? And how much? What are the impacts? How do we budget for this? How do we plan for this? What's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? And somebody recently said to me, you know, totally innocently, like, is there any appetite among the commissioners for raising property taxes? And that is something that's just commonly misunderstood, that since the 1980s, Oregon counties are not able to raise property taxes, or cities for that matter. Ballot Measure 5 happened in the 1980s, and it locked municipalities and local governments into their property tax rate at the time. And some of them had higher property taxes at the time, so they were lucky because it locked them in. Some of them were quite low at the time, but it locked them in, whatever they were at the time. So we can't just assess how much are we going to lose and raise property taxes to make up for that amount. It's not possible in Oregon unless that were changed at, you know, with the legislature. So we have to figure out other things, which is why we're in the position to always be reactive about our budget. You know, we have to figure out, are there other sources of revenue? What are they? How can we get them? Or are there places we can cut? You know, but that's been going on for years. So this county government is fairly lean. And so then we end up at the point where we have to assess, what are our mandated services as a county government? What are we mandated to provide? Then we budget for those. Then we build on from there things that we care about and want to provide that we can afford. So there could very well be, you know, if we don't find more efficiencies, as we were talking about before, and more revenue, there may very well be a time where we have to look at cutting services because we just don't have the money to provide them. So it's disturbing, and we don't, you know, we don't have all the facts yet, but I think we clearly know that there are dark clouds on our horizon, and we just don't know how dark yet or how soon they'll get here. So it's you know, it's kind of a rock and a hard place, because there aren't. Offhand, I can't think of anything I could tell you today like, oh, we provide this service, but we really don't need to. I don't think that's true of us, but certainly we provide services that we're not required to. So, you know, we have a lot of work ahead of us, and a lot of work ahead of us to figure out how to stabilize our funding, how to bring in more funding, in order to just not add to, you know, I hear from people who say no new taxes, and I totally understand that. Nobody wants to pay more taxes, but we're gonna have to figure out how to increase revenue just to stay stable, just to not lose ground and have to eliminate things. So, you know, there's hard work ahead of us, there's good work ahead of us, it's important. We're committed, here we are, you know. And we're not in charge of anything to do with the HDP. Not only are we not in charge, we didn't get a vote, and they didn't seem to care what we thought about it. So here we are reacting.
Yeah, we don't have a choice, and we're just so limited in what revenues we can go out and get. You know, there's a common narrative in the community that says, just get a new industry. Well, new industry, if it comes to Tillamook County, doesn't actually contribute to special district schools or the county for the operations that we provide. If we could get some amazing new industry, which we've, you know, talked about, where's the housing to house new workers and all of the child care for workers' children. There's all of these pieces that sort of are the foundation of economic development that we are working toward and trying to make happen. But at the end of the day, those are not the pieces that will stabilize county government's revenue, and that's our challenge. We are not able to raise our property taxes. We have a very limited slice of available revenues we can go after, and frankly, they are essentially all taxes. They're just different ways to go after that tax, whether it's an operating levy, whether it is a construction bond, whether we were to go after, we've seen other areas go after a prepared food tax. We could look at our transient lodging tax and whether or not an increase in that could happen, and how much that could raise, and what additional economic impacts would that have, if any. So there's a lot of analysis that we will have to do to take a look at the limited number of revenue sources available to us, and are they viable? And at what levels are they viable? So it is hard work, to Commissioner Bell's point, to Chair Bell's point, that's ahead of us, because the answers are not easy. And if you look to counties across, I will say, look at the south coast of Oregon. When they lost their federal timber revenues, there were just huge, devastating cuts to county services. And we absolutely hope we don't end up in that position, but it's a terrifying reality that sits in front of us that, you know, certainly urges us to work harder, to look under every single rock. But to be honest, there are a limited number of rocks that counties can look under. So it is a challenge.
Well, I'll just add one thing that, in going around talking about the Habitat Conservation Plan, and it was alluded to earlier, there are 21 special districts. I went over to our treasurer's office a while back and I got the list of the districts, and that includes school district, water districts, sanitary sewer district, the recreation district in North County. And anyway, there are 21. 16 of those get money from the state forest. Some just a relatively small amount, others well into six figures. They too, so it's not just the county that will suffer some the inability to continue what we're doing. It will be the other districts, the fire districts, the 911 district. Think about those as well. So it's all across the county. This is not it's not selective. It's very generalized. And keep in mind that this vote was 4-3. One vote changed the course of a lot of things here on the North Oregon coast and across Oregon for that matter. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, you'd be wrong.
Thank you. All right. Anything else today?
It's enough for today. Not that there aren't more things going on. But.
Right, for sure. Yeah, the short session, you know, Doug mentioned recreational immunity, that was fixed temporarily. Thank goodness, because that has a huge impact. Other things I think we can talk about in future meetings are the change to ballot measure 110 that recriminalized drug use or drug possession in certain quantities, and also the campaign finance reform. That's very interesting. So I'm interested in learning more about those. So I think in future meetings we can schedule some presentations to educate ourselves and the public about what those are going to mean. Because it was a very dynamic short session. I can remember a lot of short sessions where not a lot comes out of them, but there was a lot that came out of this one.
There was, and I think the governor's housing bill is the other big thing. The
Oh, yeah.
two big things that garnered funds in this particular session were the housing bill and the Measure 110 reform got the largest slice of the resources. So definitely to talk about, because we will be working to the point of resources,
Right.
working to bring those resources into Tillamook County. That said, they don't fund basic government. They will
Right.
fund lots of other good things, but not basic government.
Yeah, thank you. So Bill, am I correct in thinking we are not having an executive session today?
No,
Or we are?
it's next week.
Thank you, thank you.
And if I can comment
Please.
real quickly on, I don't know which one of you mentioned, the dark clouds on the horizon.
Yep.
You know, those dark clouds have been around most of the time that I've been around since, you know, the spotted owl. But it seemed to me that, you know, somehow your predecessors and you have managed somehow to skirt around that when it came to budget time. And I think, you know, I'm interested too to see how it all shakes out, but it seems to me that it's more than dark clouds. It's like thunder and lightning this time. So, you know,
Thank
I don't want to say you know, it's been happening for a long time, and this one really is going to be a hard one, I think, for you all to maneuver around somehow when it comes to budgeting. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's disappointing. It's disappointing because I know that has a lot of its genesis from lawsuits and people who are,
Darn attorneys.
yes, and they want, you know, they want to shut down, I think, production of the forest, and this one they made pretty good inroads in it, it seems to me, so.
I agree, for 70 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
they've pulled 30% of the harvest away essentially over 70 years. And I don't think it's coming back after 70 years. I don't think that's the magic moment.
Yeah.
I think that is the foreseeable horizon, and I think more harvest will be pulled back. To your point, Bill, there will be more lawsuits. There will be more restrictions that come into being. And if you look at the federal forest as the example, that's the path they're down till now, that they have 80% of forest land in Oregon for the federal forest essentially that's unharvestable.
Mhm.
So we're not that far off. We're actually at 68% of our state forest in Tillamook County that is now unharvestable.
Yeah, which is, to Bill's point, I think when it was the federal land, it was very worrisome, but we still have the state forest land.
Yep.
You know, and so now that it's both, that changes it from dark cloud to thunderstorm. You're totally right.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that 30% of the land is taken off the harvestable area. It used to be, if you go back and look at our revenues, I think I've got, numbers from 2005 or something, we would have, 3 good years and then maybe 3 less good years and then 3 more good years. And so it allowed us to kind of smooth the course in some ways because good years would follow. And I think the scary thing is that we're going into this already on 2 down years and expecting that we will not again rise to that next peak because we are losing that 30% of the harvestable land. So we're already down. We had, instead of 100 million board feet in Tillamook County in the last 2 years, one of them was 65 million, one of them was closer to 50 million. And if that is our new normal, which the models say it will be, we're not coming back up. We're already in the down and we're going to stay there. So more to come with ODF, hopefully talking straight talk with us.
Okay, I wish we weren't ending on that bleak note.
But we're headed for a beautiful weekend. It's going to be 70 degrees on Saturday here in Tillamook County, which is going to make it feel like summer, even better than spring. It's going to be a good time to mow the yard, get some general early spring yard work done, get a little bit of garden prep done, get the weeds out of there, lay your plastic down, get your soils ready. There's a whole bunch of amazing things on the horizon, and we'll remember that in this gorgeous place that we live, and we'll visit our county parks and take a walk. Whalen Island should be packed this weekend for everybody who's been watching, right? Head down to Whalen Island. It is beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we have a few announcements. We do not have a board briefing this afternoon. Instead, we have an executive session. We do not have a board briefing this afternoon. Instead, we have a rescheduled leadership council that was canceled due to weather. Tomorrow, the commissioners will hold an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub I on Thursday, March 14th at 9 to conduct a performance evaluation. The executive session will be held in the Board of Commissioners meeting room and is not open to the public. The Local Public Safety Coordinating Council, LIPSIC, meeting will be held this coming Monday, March 18th at noon here in the Board of Commissioners meeting room, 106 Tillamook County Courthouse. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 155-859-952#. And the commissioners will hold an executive session on March 19th, 2024 at 10:30 pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub A to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. The executive session will be held in the Commissioners' Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue. The executive session is not open to the public. And with that, Commissioners, we will adjourn at 10:58 a.m. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for your comments. You're welcome.
It makes me mad.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much of how many of the decisions, how much of what goes on in society now is reactive to litigation or threat of litigation or real litigation, fear of litigation. You know, it's really behind the scenes driving so much.